Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today we're going to be talking about Sui because we've actually seen a really interesting trend change. And so I wanted to point that out to you guys because we actually have been following this same trend ever since like the end of November. And so this is, I would say, a relatively important event that we should be talking about. And so obviously I want to talk about that. I also wanted to go over kind of what's going on in the overall market. Also, Sui actually posted something the other day that is some big plans for 2025. And so if they're able to capitalize and I guess I should say deliver on this, like I'm sure they're actually planning to, this could be really huge for the Sui ecosystem, and realistically this could turn into a Solana type situation if you ask me. Again, this is not financial advice, you need to make your own decisions, a lot of that type of stuff, but I just wanted to talk to you about the news that we are seeing today because it is pretty interesting overall. So anyway, let's go on ahead, dive right in. Starting with crypto bubbles, we can see a pretty red day on the market. Actually, a lot of this has really kind of started to shift a lot more red over the past even just like probably 15 to 45 minutes, I would say. We really started to see, there was a lot more green and some of this was a lot less red. So we kind of started to see a little bit of a pullback, a lot of through the whole market. We can see AI coins being some of the bigger ones that are pulling back. We've got Virtuals, AI16Z, Fartcoin, Fetch. Those are kind of like the big, I guess we got WorldCoin and Quant over here as well. So Graph also. Rough day in the market for AI coins. We're seeing a lot of the big ones out here, even Tau listed as well. So we can see that. Also, we've got, a couple others here and there. Hyperliquid has kind of just been super volatile in both directions, and so that one's kind of interesting to see, kind of bouncing around. But what we can see from Sui is little rough, right? And actually, let's pull this up to full screen. What we can see though is, we've been following this like kind of trend line that we have been seeing, and it's been following pretty closely basically since the beginning of or I guess the end of November. We could even probably pull this back and show that this was a trend line that we were kind of fighting against for a while. Probably need to come back like that. We could see, we could even say maybe even the end of October is really what we've seen this trend line. At first it was kind of a level of resistance, but then we kind of basically turned it into a level of support, and we've been following it ever since then. So, a really strong trend line that has been broken. And so the fact that it has been broken, I would say, is a little bit concerning. We can see that we did break and close about 4 days ago, but then we did actually kind of move back in potentially. So this looked like it could have been one of those type of fake out moments where it's we break it for a second, but then realistically, we actually come back in. But now, we can see we've fallen out and then closed. I think this is our first candle where we've closed fully outside of or below this trend line, I guess I should say. So not really the best news that we are seeing here. We actually can see we are pushing the bottom of the Bollinger Bands consistently in almost 3 of the past 4 candles here. So things looking a little bit concerning just purely from a price action standpoint. We're going to go over the fundamentals. Fundamentally, I would say it's completely the opposite. I think we've got a lot of really cool and interesting and good things happening going on with the Sui ecosystem, but from a purely technical perspective, not looking the best overall. We can see, even just going back to what is this, the beginning of August. It's been basically up only. It's been a super strong uptrend. I would even say we come back. We realistically could even show this trend line following. Again, it gets a little bit kind of murky the further back we go. We see it kind of departs from this a little bit. We could even say the beginning of September is realistically when we started following this overall general trend line to the upside. It gets obviously super clear when we're looking from the end of November. It gets pretty moderately clear when we see about the end of October, and then like I said, all the way even back to the end of August, beginning of September, we can see that it's kind of followed this general trend. So the fact that we are breaking this, a little bit concerning. We can see that this did kind of happen at the end of October. And so if you do kind of believe and subscribe to this kind of trend line mentality, this could be potentially an interesting place to get in, because obviously when we did see this trend line break, it did not hold, of course, and we actually saw comparatively some really outsized gains to follow because we essentially had to catch back up to the trend line, and then it actually kind of ran up off it and then came back down to bounce back on it. So again, there's always 2 ways to look at things whenever we're looking in the crypto market. We could look at it as this is potentially concerning, which I would say it is, just like it would have been potentially concerning back here. But then we saw a really nice reversal. Obviously, we were bouncing against Bollinger Bands very similarly to what we are seeing up here. So things are looking very similar to what we saw back here at the end of October and what we might be seeing right now here in the end of January. So again, potentially, not financial advice, I don't know the future, nobody has any idea of what's actually going to happen, but potentially this could be what we see following, or maybe this time is different. We've broken the trend line and now we start to see Maybe it's some more level of like consolidation and just kind of ranging from kind of one point to the other. Maybe we start to see a little bit of some retracing, maybe even coming back to like the, high $3 range. Really hard to say for sure. Obviously, that's what makes markets. If everybody knew, everybody would be making the same exact move. So hard to say for sure. I am just saying that there is some level of historical precedent to maybe seeing a really nice and I would say outsized period of returns on Sui potentially. But then also, just from a pure technical perspective, whenever you do break a trend line like this, it is a little bit concerning. So we'll just have to kind of keep an eye on what's going on here, monitor how things are looking. As I've said, we're pushing down against the Bollinger Bands, but RSI overall not looking too bad one way or the other. It is kind of on the lower end of neutral, I would say, maybe pushing into weak, but not anything like close to oversold or anything like that. So a little bit of some kind of diversion or a divergence between what we're seeing on the Bollinger Bands, which is showing a little bit of some price extension away from kind of the mean line, but also this isn't showing any like particular level of like RSI weakness as well either. So that's kind of what we're seeing there. If you are wanting to trade, Sui, Bitcoin, Ethereum, anything like that, I have a trade that I actually took on a stream yesterday. We can see it is down a little bit. It's actually up by about this much just about 30 minutes ago. We have kind of seen that overall dump in the market. So, we'll see how this goes. I'm going to kind of just let it ride. This is a demo trading account, so I'll probably take a couple trades. Actually, let's just open a Sui trade right now, because why not? All right, we have opened this Sui long. We can see, we open at market, so we are going to be down a little bit just to start. We'll see how this goes. We'll kind of monitor it. I did take a 20x just because I'm thinking we'll see a pretty strong bounce either here, again, hoping to return back to that trend line, or maybe we even come back down to this liquidity zone and see a bounce there. If we come back to this liquidity zone, 20x is probably a little bit too aggressive. I'm mainly playing this level of support. If we were to see this kind of fail, we'd actually set a stop loss anyway. So I'll actually go through, I'll set a stop loss later, probably like right at this range, probably like $4.21, 22 cents, somewhere around there. But yeah, we'll just kind of see how it plays out. I'm going to start kind of taking some more of these demo trades more frequently, just to see, how things go, what we talk about, if it plays out as we think, stuff like that. So as I said, though, if you are interested in trading, doing anything like that, I do have that link to BTCC in the description below. They are still doing that 10% bonus on first time deposits, free money. I love free money. You probably love free money. If you don't, I guess whatever. That's on you. They are also doing the extra bonuses of up to $10,055 per user. So BTCC throwing a whole bunch of money at you to come over and trade with them if that is something that you're interested in. Again, they've got a whole bunch of different stats down here. 13 years, been around for a really long time. 300 plus crypto futures, 500x leverage. Do not use 500x leverage. That is my opinion. Obviously, I'm not your financial advisor. You can do whatever you want, but anything above realistically probably 10x leverage, it gets exceedingly risky, and you should understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. No VPN or KYC necessary, I guess I should say, which is really good if that is something that you are interested in. So like I said, go on ahead, check the link in the description below and get signed up if you are wanting to make some of these trades as well. Moving on, we've kind of moved away from the potentially somewhat bleak looking technical analysis. I now want to take a look into the fundamental analysis. So we can see Sui sitting back a few spots from the top. Obviously we saw Solana. Solana's seen some ridiculous moves. They're now sitting in the number 2 spot. Ethereum far and away in the number one slot. It's not even close. Tron is 3rd. Then we actually have Bitcoin, which is a little bit surprising. BSC, Base, Arbitrum, then Sui. Coming back to Bitcoin, this is one that I think if you told people that Bitcoin had the fourth largest amount of TVL locked on chain, I think people would be pretty surprised by that metric. And then we can see Sui coming in here at number 8, growing really, really rapidly, as we can see. Even though it is number 8, I mean, we can see some really strong jumps being made. If we look at Arbitrum, we can see about $1 billion more than Sui. Base is going to be relatively close, about $1.5 billion, and then BSC a little bit more distant and at about $3.5 billion more. So these are kind of like the immediate people that Sui would need to pass as far as like the ecosystem TVL is concerned. So going back to Sui, we can see obviously really, really nice chart up and to the right, basically on average, which is really good to see. If we look at volume, we can see volume tapering a tiny bit. We did see our highs kind of here back in December, tapering a little bit, but overall, I mean, this has held very, very well. I mean, look at what we were seeing back here and look at what we're seeing up here. Just, I mean, completely ridiculous explosion of volume on Sui, which is really, really cool. The other thing I did want to take a look at, I've mentioned this several times, stablecoins. Stablecoins is important. We can see we are now pushing up very, very close to $500 million on chain. Pretty small compared to some of the other ones, particularly if we're looking at something like Solana or Ethereum. But I mean, pretty nice growth. I mean, it hasn't been, I would say, as explosive as what might be like most bullish, but it has been a pretty strong trend to the upside. And again, if this is your first video that you're watching with me, we talk about stable coins on Sui because I think this is a really good like indirect approximation as to why somebody would want to be on chain, right? If you have a whole bunch of TVL on chain, that can be good, but also like you can kind of fake this a little bit with price appreciation because obviously your coin is on your chain. If your price increases or your coin price increases in value and people are staking that on chain, then this is kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in some capacity, right? And so that's why I also like to look at stable coins, is because stable coins are something that has nothing realistically to do with the chain. Stable coins are chain agnostic at this point, basically. And so it's really important to see like, do people actually want to keep their like non-Sui money on Sui? And it's very clear to see that there's an increasing amount of people who are. And so, stable coins on chain, in my opinion, is a very, very important stat and metric to track, just because we want to see that more people are wanting to keep their money on chain, because theoretically that means that there's more stuff to do there. So anyway, that's one thing I'm keeping a close eye on. I did want to take a quick look at this X post from Sui. Sui coming out with actually this massive article. I'm not going to click into it. Adini, I believe is the correct way to say his name. Probably, if it's not, I'm sorry. But he's the co-founder and CPO. So this is essentially like one of the people creating Sui. Super, super long article that came out just about 2 days ago. Really cool. Sui has kind of come through and done some like TLDR, like thread tweets here. But you can see even still like a pretty decent bit of stuff going on. They essentially kind of do a bit of like a retro of like what happened in 2024, highlighting all the successes and things that they saw is most important there. And then they kind of go into 2025 and they're like, this is what we plan on doing here. This is like how we're going to make it even better. And honestly, like they've got some pretty aspirational views. I have liked it. I have also reposted it, but I quoted it instead. So even though it's not showing, if you do want to take a look and maybe even read the article or go into some of this a little bit in more detail, this video is kind of running a little bit long, so I don't want to like take too much time, but we can see, even just like wrapping up the year, zero friction onboarding, sub-second finality, user first blockchain. They also are very, very like dev focused as well, which I think is why we've seen so much success there, is because I think they're trying to solve the like demand or I guess the supply problem, and the demand problem will take care of itself. If there are interesting apps built on Sui, people will come use Sui, and I feel like that's a pretty reasonable bet to make overall. And so, that's kind of what we're seeing out of Sui. Like I said, if you are interested in reading more of this, I would highly recommend it. There's a lot of really, really interesting stuff in here. Just go into the link in the description. I do have the link to my X account. You can go through, check it out. Like I said, I do have it quoted. I'll even show you on my profile. We've got it quoted here. So, if that's something that you want to read a little bit more into, feel free to take a look. Like I said, it's really, really interesting stuff. So anyway, that kind of wraps up what we were talking about on Sui today. A lot of different things going on within this Sui ecosystem. So hopefully this was a useful and informational update for you, kind of giving you a high level look at where we're sitting at with Sui, just kind of generally from a price perspective, as well, just from more of like a fundamental like ecosystem perspective as well. So like I said, hopefully it was valuable. If it was, please do give me a like and a subscribe, because it really, really does help me out continue to grow the channel, reach more people, all that type of good stuff. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, thoughts, feelings, please do drop those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of my comments. So if you do have anything that you want me to like see or read or anything like that, that'd be a really great way to do so. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.